ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont. And some of my fears about Switch 2 may have just been confirmed. We've got this article from Tech Radar about Split Fiction. So let's just dive right in. After 18 hours with Split Fiction, I can safely say that the Switch 2 version keeps the fun and thrill, but not the quality. Switch Fiction. Huh. That's a good one. You got me there with that. Uh, Split Fiction on paper is the perfect. Wait, is this just a review? That's it. You guys tried. Oh, you almost got me, Tech Radar. You snuck a review in right onto the top. I don't want to read a review. Um, I will read the pros and cons real quick though. Unique, fun-filled, character-driven story. These are the pros. Brilliant and sometimes surreal level design, varied gameplay mechanics and environments. Play portable on tabletop or on TV thanks to Switch 2's hybrid design. Excellent sound even in tabletop mode. The cons: drop in visual quality, shadow renders, and frame rate from PS5. A multitude of confusing local and online co-op options. Great. That's what's killing Monster Hunter Wilds, by the way. They're confusing ass multiplayer shit. And then you need two sets of Joy-Con 2 controllers. Ooh, that is not good. That's not good, Switch. And certain gameplay mechanics can be harder to see in tabletop mode. Right. Releasing a follow-up to 2021's critically acclaimed It Takes Two was never going to be easy, but Swedish Hazellight Studios provided it was more than up to the challenge when it released co-op action adventure Split Fiction for Xbox Series X or Series consoles and PS5 and PC on March 2025. Split Fiction took the lauded co-op experience of It Takes Two to a new level, offering more varied environments and gameplay and a lot more explosive, literally at times, action. Now, the hit co op adventure has been ported to the Nintendo Switch 2, releasing as part of the new console's launch lineup alongside titles such as Deltarune, Mario Kart World, and Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition. But does the Switch 2 port of the co op game manage to maintain the magic? Why didn't you mention Cyberpunk 2077 as a drop title? I feel like that's more important than Mario Kart World right now or Hitman. Deltarune, I don't know. I mean, did people like Deltarune as much as Undertale? I don't think they did, but mostly yes. That Okay, that's a response to their own question, not the one I just asked. Split Fiction on Switch 2's brilliantly fun, character-driven story and overall gameplay mechanics remain the same, but there's a distinctive drop in visual and performance quality compared to the PS5. Pair this with a multitude of confusing local and online co-op play options and a less than optimal tabletop mode experience, and there's some frustrating niggles to this Switch 2 port. Bold choice of word there, buddy. However, overall, this is a solid port that's, for the most part, well suited to the Switch's 2 versatility. Just don't expect the same level of polish as the other platforms. This is the biggest problem that the Switch has been suffering from since the original Switch. Is they try to port things over to it and it just doesn't have the processing power because it's a handheld console and they really can't pack the processing power into the compact design that Nintendo wants their new portable console to have. You got to have some fucking meat and potatoes on your console if you want it to have, processing power that's equal to, but not better than, because you're never going to be better than like a standing console, but at least equal to a standing console. You gotta have some room in there, and Nintendo loves packing their electronics so tightly that opening them is a risk if you wish to repair them. Uh, Split Fiction begins at Raider Publishing, where fantasy writer Zoe and sci-fi writer Mio are summoned, along with others, under the premise of their stories are finally going to be published. What CEO JD Raider has up his sleeve, though, is far from sit down chat and contract signing. Instead, he introduces the machine, which can create a complete simulation of a writer's world, while everyone is excited at the prospect of jumping into their stories, with each becoming encased in their individual bubble simulations. Mio is rightfully suspicious of the technology and gets in a fight with the staff, only to fall into Zoe's bubble. Mio spawns in Zoe's magical fantasy world, much to both chagrin, alongside a suspicious looking glitch. When the writers approach the glitch, they're pulled into Mio's story, a chaotic sci fi thriller full of explosives, dogfights, and lasers. It's the perfect setup for what you should expect in split fiction. With each level, you jump from Zoe's enchanting fantasy world to Mio's explosive sci fi world. One minute you're flying dragons, the next you're lobbing bombs at a cyber game show. As you expect, Mio and Zoe are, on the surface, polar opposites. From the start, Zoe is painted as an optimistic, bubbly daydreamer, while Mio is surly, suspicious, and sarcastic. But once they realize Raider's intentions are, as Mio predicted, sinister, they must work together to find all the glitches and escape the simulation. We put a little bit of ourselves into everything we write. Through their adventure, Zoe and Mio discover there is more true than they thought. This is, man, I can't read right now. Holy shit. Uh, they discover this is more true than they thought. Their friendship grows as they come face to face with the surreal, funny, magical, and darker aspects of their lives that have made their way into their work, allowing them to see they have more in common than originally thought. The character growth is well placed with some emotional twists that you'll likely see coming a mile off, as the writing isn't amazing, but it's the visual interpretations, the worlds, and how they portray the stories, emotional beats. Again, can't read. That hit hardest. The metaphors may be on the nose at times, but they do help you understand both writers without the need for words. Don't worry, this isn't a heavy adventure. Instead, split fiction carefully walks the line between thrilling action and laugh out loud silliness. Its gameplay too keeps you guessing. As with It Takes Two, Hazelight isn't afraid to experiment with different genres and gameplay mechanics here, throwing in platforming, shooting, puzzles, and more, resulting in the perfect formula for co-op partners who struggle to agree on what to play. Damn, this is a long article. Um, while Split Fiction at its core is a great game, its Switch 2 port is noticeable downgrade for its PS5 counterpart, and this is clear from its opening splash screen showing the title. In TV docked mode, the splash screen's blacks are blocky and the frame rates on the animation are noticeably lower than on PS5. Even sitting on the main menu, I spotted issues before playing with the shadow renders on the Raider publishing sign flickering. In games, the visual drawbacks are apparent too. While the cutscenes look alright, the visuals are considerably less polished than on PS5, with character hair textures a bit frazzled at the end and the graphics overall looking less refined and detailed. It's not a huge surprise given Split Fiction on Switch 2 runs at 1080p 30 frames per second, a drastic drop from the 4K 60 of the PS5. If you've not played Split Fiction on another platform, you may not notice these issues, but you'll likely still clock a few. God damn, really? Can the I guess the Switch well, yeah, I guess it's a PS4 basically, but it's a portable PS4. It's in your hand. Take it wherever you want. During actual gameplay, there's occasionally a clear blur when characters move quickly and the shadows render is less than optimal, resulting in the dark, poorly lit areas of flickering shadows. While the worlds and characters still look good, again, they're nowhere near as impressive as on PS5. The visual refinement isn't quite there, which can result in Mio looking a bit like a cartoon character at times. For the most part, this isn't a huge issue, but the blur and darker areas can make this slightly harder to navigate certain areas where careful footing is critical. This is particularly frustrating in tabletop mode. While the general visual of the performance aren't shown so obvious when playing in handheld and tabletop mode, the shadows are a killer. Wait, when playing in handheld and tabletop mode, they should have a but oh, okay, that was a little confusing statement. This is mainly because playing Split Fiction in tabletop mode is less than optimal experience. Firstly, this is because it's really hard to see what's going on your side of the screen anyway. When there are two of you gathered around the screen in TV mode, I can struggle at times to keep track of my character and their footing, but on a smaller screen, it's much bigger challenge, especially when you hit those darker areas. Are you playing two players on one screen on the portable mode? You out of your damn mind. That is a nightmare. That didn't work with Double Dash. It ain't gonna work with this. Bro. That's a headache. Yeah, of course it's gonna be a problem. You're looking at a screen that's this fucking big and you're trying to discern where your character's at. Nah, that screen, that small, requires your full attention and it needs to be like 12 inches from your face. My partner and I struggled to play tabletop in our living room, pondering if our 30 plus year old eyes were to blame, but while also questioning how anyone could play optimally on the go. If we struggle in our living room, huddled up on our sofa to try and see the screen, how feasible is it to play in an airport or on a train? Probably more feasible because you're literally packed like sardines in both those situations. Where on a couch, you're going to be like lounging and relaxed. This is exacerbated by the fact that you cannot play Split Fiction with just one set of Joy-Con 2 controllers like you can with other Nintendo co-op games. Instead, you need to own two sets of controllers to play. This is great if you have another set, but less than ideal. Oop, nope, stop that. Stop that. But less than ideal if you find yourself needing to shell out 95 on top of the game price to play with a friend locally. The audio, however, in TV mode and tabletop mode is impressively loud and detailed, especially for the latter, so at least that's something. Fuck, how long is this article? I'm already bored of it. Where Split Fiction confused the heck out of me was its numerous co-op play options, trying to work out who I could play with locally and online and what performed. Seriously hurt my head, even with the information boxes besides some. So here's what I eventually worked out. Playing couch co-op with a friend is easy. Just select play local option. Okay, I'm done here. The short end of the stick is that the graphics don't hold up. The processing doesn't hold up on the Switch 2, and this clown trying to play a two-player intensive game on the same screen in portable mode. He keep calling it tabletop mode. Maybe that's what the Switch calls it, but it's like handheld portable mode. That's insane, especially with a game that's detailed like, any of these fucking Hazelight Studio games. They require an amount of attention to detail that having a screen that's, only 8 or 9 inches across is not optimal and never will be optimal. But that was a very detailed layout. So that's all I have for this. They pretty much summed up everything. I'll put a link to this in the description for anyone that wants to read the whole article because it goes on. There's more like review breakdown stuff. I don't really want to get into that. I just wanted to know the specs and how it ran on the Switch 2, and now I know. Not great. It's like Arkham Asylum all over again on the original Switch. But that's all I have for this video. This is your host Belmont, signing out.